Imagine your mind as a high-performance machine that has been hijacked by an invisible enemy. You wake up every morning with the best of intentions, yet by noon you find yourself drowning in a sea of notifications and shallow thoughts. You tell yourself that you are just lazy or that you lack the natural talent for deep work, but that is a lie designed to keep you comfortable in your own stagnation. Your inability to focus is not a personality flaw, but a carefully conditioned state of mental decay. You have been trained to crave the cheap hit of a digital buzz while your real potential withers away in the shadows of distraction. This is the moment you stop making excuses. This is where we deconstruct the addiction that has hollowed out your attention span and rebuild your brain from the ground up. Over the next 10 chapters, we will strip away the false beliefs that hold you captive. We will explore the brutal reality of dopamine overload and the environmental traps that dictate your behavior without your consent. We will move beyond the myth of motivation and enter the realm of cold hard discipline. You will learn to control your surroundings before they control you. You will discover how to train your mind like a muscle until it becomes an impenetrable fortress of concentration. This is not a gentle guide, but a psychological awakening. If you turn away, now you are choosing to remain a spectator in your own life. If you stay, you are choosing to become the person who can no longer be distracted. The battle between comfort and control begins now. The machine is being reset. Listen closely because your future depends entirely on your ability to finally pay attention. Think about the last time you sat in total silence without reaching for your pocket. Within seconds, your mind likely began to itch with a phantom vibration or a desperate urge to check a screen that has nothing new to show you. This is not a lapse in willpower, but the result of a precise psychological war being waged against your consciousness every single day. Modern existence has been meticulously engineered by the world's most brilliant engineers to hijack your primitive survival instincts for the sake of profit and engagement. You are currently living inside a digital Skinner box where every notification chime and every colorful icon serves as a programmed trigger to disrupt your flow. This constant state of fragmentation has rewired your neural pathways to prefer shallow novelty over deep, meaningful work. Your brain is not failing you because it is weak or incapable of discipline. It is simply performing exactly as it has been trained by a multi-billion-dollar attention economy that views your focus as a harvestable commodity. We have moved beyond simple habit formation into a realm of systemic behavioral conditioning that mirrors the most intense forms of chemical addiction. You are being nudged away from your goals by design. Every time you switch tabs or glance at a flickering screen, you are reinforcing a loop that tells your brain that the present moment is never enough. This is the silent erosion of the human spirit. We are losing the ability to look at a single horizon for more than a few moments because we have been taught to fear the quiet spaces where real thought occurs. You are currently a passenger in a vehicle driven by algorithms that do not care about your success or your mental health. They only care that you stay plugged into the machine. It is time to wake up and realize that your focus is the only thing you truly own. The biology of your distraction is rooted in an ancient survival mechanism known as the dopamine loop, which once helped your ancestors find food and avoid predators in the wild. In the modern world, this system has been inverted and weaponized against you to create a state of perpetual seeking without ever reaching a point of satisfaction. When you pull down to refresh a social media feed, you are effectively pulling the lever on a digital slot machine that provides variable rewards to keep you hooked for hours. This constant drip of dopamine creates a neurological dependency that makes deep work feel physically painful or impossibly boring by comparison. Your brain is a masterpiece of adaptation, but it is currently adapting to a world of noise and chaos rather than clarity and purpose. Every click and every scroll acts as a repetitive training exercise that weakens the prefrontal cortex while strengthening the impulsive regions of the limbic system. You are literally thinning the neural hardware required for long-term planning and sustained concentration. This is not a metaphor for a busy life, but a literal physical transformation of your gray matter under the pressure of constant stimulation. The psychological cost of this shift is a permanent state of mental fog and a rising tide of anxiety that stems from never being fully present in your own life. We have become a civilization of nomads wandering through a desert of information while dying of thirst for actual wisdom. The engineering behind your favorite apps relies on the same principles of reinforcement used to train lab rats in a maze. You are being rewarded for your own distraction while your true potential remains locked behind a wall of digital clutter. The first step toward reclaiming your mind is recognizing that your current inability to focus is a manufactured symptom of an environment that was built to keep you scattered. You are not broken, but you are being controlled. Imagine your attention as a finite currency that you are currently spending on things that leave you intellectually bankrupt and emotionally drained at the end of every day. Every time you allow an interruption to break your concentration, it takes an average of 23 minutes for your brain to return to its original level of depth. This means that if you check your phone just 3 times an hour, you are essentially living your entire life in a state of cognitive impairment. We have normalized a level of mental fragmentation that would have been considered a clinical disorder only a century ago. This is the dark reality of the attention economy, where the goal is to keep you in a state of continuous partial attention so that you never have the clarity to look away. This engineered addiction thrives on your need for social validation and your fear of missing out on a world that is moving too fast to matter. You are caught in a feedback loop where the more you distract yourself, the less capable you become of resisting the next distraction. It is a downward spiral that leads to a hollowed-out version of the self where thoughts are shallow and intentions are fleeting. The modern world does not want you to be focused because a focused individual is difficult to manipulate and impossible to sell to. A focused mind is a threat to the status quo of mindless consumption and reactive behavior. You must understand that your struggle to read a book or finish a complex task is the intended outcome of a system designed to exploit your neurological vulnerabilities. We are living through a crisis of the human attention span that is more dangerous than any economic recession because it robs us of our agency. If you cannot control where you look, you cannot control where you go. The path to mastery begins with the uncomfortable realization that you have been a willing participant in your own mental imprisonment. It is time to stop being a product. To break the cycle of addiction, you must first develop a radical intolerance for the noise that currently defines your daily existence, and see it for the poison it truly is. Reclaiming your focus is not about learning a few clever productivity hacks or downloading another app to track your time. It is about a fundamental shift in your relationship with the world and a violent rejection of the systems that seek to keep you docile and distracted. You must learn to sit with the discomfort of boredom, because that is where your brain begins to heal and where original ideas are born. The path back to mental sovereignty is steep and requires you to confront the reality that you have been living on autopilot for far too long. You have to rebuild the muscles of your mind through deliberate practice and the intentional removal of the triggers that lead you astray. This is a battle for the quality of your internal life and the legacy of what you will actually accomplish with the limited time you have left on this earth. Do not settle for a life of fragmented moments and stolen glances at a glowing screen when you could be building something that demands the full power of your intellect. The choice is yours, but the window of opportunity is closing as the technology becomes more invasive and the algorithms become more persuasive. You are at a crossroads between becoming a master of your own attention or remaining a permanent slave to the whims of the machine. The discomfort you feel right now is the sound of your true self waking up to the reality of its confinement. Use that frustration as fuel to burn down the structures of distraction you have built around yourself over the years. This audiobook is not a suggestion, but a roadmap for a total neurological revolution that will return the keys of your kingdom to their rightful owner. Stop scrolling and start seeing the world for what it is. You have likely spent years beating yourself up for a perceived lack of character because you cannot seem to sit still and finish a single meaningful task without the itch to check your phone. You call yourself lazy and you assume your lack of productivity is a personal failure of the soul, but the reality is far more clinical and much more alarming than a simple lack of willpower. What you are experiencing is not a character flaw, but a direct physical consequence of neurological depletion in a world designed to keep your cognitive tank permanently empty. Your brain is a biological engine that runs on a very specific and finite fuel source known as executive function, and every single choice you make from the moment you wake up drains that reservoir. In the modern landscape of infinite choices and constant digital noise, you are suffering from a chronic state of decision fatigue that leaves your prefrontal cortex gasping for air before you even start your workday. We are living in a culture that mistakes overstimulation for laziness and burnout for a lack of ambition. You are not failing to focus because you are weak, but because your mental hardware is being forced to run a million background processes that were never meant to exist simultaneously. When you try to force deep work on a brain that has been vibrating with micro-decisions and social media notifications for 5 hours, you are essentially trying to start a car with a dead battery and then blaming the engine for not turning over. This is the great deception of the modern era, where we are told to work harder while the very tools we use to work are actively dismantling our capacity for thought. It is time to stop apologizing for your biology and start understanding the physics of your mental exhaustion. You are not broken, you are simply overloaded beyond the capacity of any human being to remain calm and centered. The mechanism of this focus collapse is rooted in a phenomenon known as neural adaptation, where your reward systems are being systematically rewired to demand high-intensity stimulation at all times. When you spend your day switching between tabs and scrolling through high-contrast imagery, your brain begins to set a new baseline for what it considers interesting or worthy of attention. This creates a massive neurological gap between the frantic pace of the digital world and the slow, deliberate crawl of actual deep work or creative problem solving. Your brain is not lazy when it rejects a difficult book or a complex project. It is simply responding to a lack of dopamine compared to the cheap thrill of a viral video or a trending headline. This is the dopamine trap, where your patience for the mundane is incinerated by the constant heat of instant gratification. You have been conditioned to expect a reward every few seconds, and when that reward is not forthcoming, your brain enters a state of literal withdrawal characterized by irritability and a desperate need for a distraction. This is not a lack of motivation, but a physiological inability to tolerate the silence required for high-level achievement. Your environment has become a minefield of triggers that activate your limbic system and bypass your rational mind entirely. We have created a world where the path of least resistance is also the path of most distraction, and then we wonder why we cannot find the strength to stay on the road to our goals. The struggle you feel is the friction between your evolved instincts and a digital environment that exploits those instincts for profit. You are caught in a web of behavioral reinforcement that makes deep work feel like a punishment rather than a privilege. Every time you give in to a distraction, you are not just losing time, you are reinforcing a neural pathway that makes the next distraction even harder to resist in the future. The difference between true laziness and neurological overload is found in the way your nervous system reacts to the demands of your daily schedule. Laziness is a choice to avoid effort despite having the energy to perform, while overload is a state where the energy has been completely siphoned off by the friction of your surroundings. Most people today are working harder than any previous generation just to keep their heads above the water of information that is constantly flooding their consciousness. This constant state of hypervigilance and reactive behavior is what leads to the feeling of being busy without ever being productive. Your brain is constantly scanning for threats and opportunities in a digital environment that never sleeps, and this puts you in a state of sympathetic nervous system activation that is the literal opposite of focus. You cannot concentrate when your body believes it is in a state of emergency, and your phone is a device that broadcasts emergencies 24 hours a day. This is the physiological reality of the modern worker who is expected to be creative and analytical while their biology is screaming for rest and safety. Your habits are not yours, they are the products of an environment that was built to serve the needs of advertisers rather than the needs of your intellect. We have mistaken the fatigue of the digital age for a lack of personal drive, but the truth is that you are simply running a race on a treadmill that keeps getting faster. The realization that you are conditioned rather than broken is the most uncomfortable and yet the most liberating thought you can have. It means that the solution is not more self-help books or more discipline, but a radical restructuring of the world you inhabit. You are a biological organism living in a technological cage, and your inability to focus is the sound of your mind rattling the bars. It is time to recognize the real enemy. To reclaim your focus, you must first accept that your willpower is a limited resource that cannot win a war against a billion-dollar industry designed to break it. You must stop trying to fight your distractions through sheer force of mind and start removing the triggers that make the fight necessary in the virtuous cycle of attention. Your brain will naturally settle into a state of flow if you stop interrupting it every 3 minutes with a dopamine hit that it never asked for in the first place. This requires a level of environmental design that most people find extreme, but it is the only way to protect your cognitive sovereignty in a world of noise. You have to build a fortress around your time and a sanctuary for your thoughts where the algorithms cannot reach you and the notifications cannot find you. This is not about being anti-technology, but about being pro-human and recognizing that your brain has limits that must be respected if you want it to perform at a high level. The motivational speakers tell you to just do it, but they fail to mention that your brain is currently a battleground where your survival instincts are being used to sell you things you do not need. The transition from a scattered mind to a focused one is not a leap of faith, but a series of calculated adjustments to your daily routine and your physical space. You must cultivate a deep and abiding respect for the quiet because the quiet is where your power lives. When you finally stop the constant input, you will find that your brain is remarkably good at focusing once the interference is gone. The feeling of being unable to concentrate will be replaced by a natural curiosity and a drive to solve problems that you haven't felt since childhood. This is the promise of a life lived with intention rather than reaction. You are not a lazy person trying to become a productive one. You are a focused person trying to escape a distracted world. Your brain is a survival organ that was never designed for the luxury of your modern ambitions, and it currently views every act of discipline as a direct threat to your biological safety. Every time you attempt to lean into a difficult task or a complex problem, your nervous system triggers a subtle but powerful alarm that screams for you to return to the warm embrace of the familiar. This is the comfort trap where the path of least resistance is masquerading as a form of self-care when it is actually a slow form of intellectual suicide. You are wired to conserve energy and seek out immediate rewards because for most of human history that was the only way to stay alive in a world of scarcity. Today, that same instinct is being exploited by a landscape of infinite convenience, where you can satisfy every primitive urge with a single tap on a screen. The resistance you feel when you try to focus is not a sign that you are doing something wrong, but a sign that you are challenging a million years of evolution that prefers you to be passive and predictable. Discipline is the deliberate act of overriding this biological survival mechanism in favor of a future version of yourself that does not yet exist. When you choose comfort, you are essentially telling your potential to sit down and be quiet so that your primitive brain can feel safe. This internal friction is the defining conflict of your life, and every hour you spend in the pursuit of easy dopamine is an hour stolen from the greatness you claim to want. You cannot have both a life of total comfort and a life of profound achievement because they are fundamentally incompatible states of being. The cost of your current comfort is the permanent loss of the person you were meant to become, and that is a price you pay in installments every single time you choose the easy way out over the hard work that demands your focus. The tragedy of the modern condition is that we have become so proficient at avoiding discomfort that we have lost the ability to tolerate the very friction required for growth. You are currently living in a state of self-imposed stagnation where your desire for short-term pleasure is consistently winning the war against your long-term success. This is not a balanced fight because the rewards of comfort are felt instantly, while the rewards of discipline are often hidden behind months or years of invisible effort. Your brain is a master of rationalization, and it will provide you with 1,000 logical reasons to check your phone or grab a snack the moment the work gets difficult. It will tell you that you are tired or that you need more research or that you will start fresh tomorrow morning when you feel more inspired. These are lies told by your amygdala to keep you within the boundaries of the known world where there is no risk, but also no reward. Real discipline is the capacity to hear those lies and move forward anyway, without waiting for the feeling of motivation to arrive. Motivation is a fair-weather friend that disappears the moment the wind changes, but discipline is the iron floor that holds you up when your emotions are screaming at you to quit. Every time you allow yourself to be seduced by a minor distraction, you are reinforcing a pattern of weakness that makes the next challenge seem even more insurmountable. You are training yourself to be a spectator in your own life rather than the protagonist of your own story. The uncomfortable truth is that you are currently addicted to the ease of your existence, and that addiction is the only thing standing between you and the mastery you desire. You must learn to view your craving for comfort as a symptom of a mind that has been softened by too much convenience and too little struggle. Consider the psychological weight of 1,000 small concessions made over the course of a single week, and how that weight eventually crushes your sense of agency. When you choose the couch over the gym or the scroll over the book, you are not just making a single choice, but you are casting a vote for a version of yourself that is incapable of sustained effort. This is how a life of mediocrity is built, through the accumulation of small moments where you chose what was easy over what was right. The brain is remarkably efficient at turning these choices into permanent personality traits that define the limits of what you believe is possible for yourself. If you consistently avoid the heat of mental exertion, you will eventually find that you have no tolerance for the cold reality of failure or the long road to success. Discipline is the process of voluntarily stepping into the fire of discomfort until your mind hardens into something that cannot be easily broken by a notification or a bad mood. It is the ability to maintain your trajectory when the initial excitement of a new project has evaporated and all that is left is the grueling day-to-day execution. The war between comfort and discipline is won in the quiet seconds between the impulse to quit and the decision to stay in the chair. Most people lose this war because they treat their feelings as facts rather than as temporary biological weather patterns that will eventually pass if ignored. You must develop a cold and clinical relationship with your own resistance and treat it like a background noise that has no authority over your actions. The path to a focused life is paved with the corpses of the excuses you used to believe were true. You have to be willing to kill the parts of yourself that love the easy road if you ever want to see what lies at the end of the hard one. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you want whenever you feel like it, but the power to do what is necessary even when you feel like doing nothing at all. You are currently a slave to your impulses because you have not yet developed the neural architecture required to say no to the immediate demands of your lizard brain. Building that architecture requires you to seek out discomfort as a form of training rather than avoiding it as a form of suffering. You must begin to see your focus as a weapon that must be sharpened daily on the whetstone of difficult tasks and sustained concentration. Every session of deep work where you refuse to check your messages is a victory in the war for your soul and a step toward a level of mental clarity that most people will never experience. The world is full of people who are waiting for conditions to be perfect before they begin their work, but the truly disciplined understand that conditions are never perfect and that the work is the only thing that matters. You are not a victim of your environment, but a product of your habits, and those habits are currently serving the interests of your comfort rather than your growth. It is time to embrace the harsh reality that your potential is being strangled by the very things you use to relax and escape. To break free, you must become comfortable with the feeling of being uncomfortable and find a strange kind of peace in the middle of the struggle. This is the secret of the high achievers who seem to possess an inhuman level of focus when they have simply learned to ignore the sirens of the modern world. You have the capacity for legendary discipline, but you have buried it under layers of soft living and easy rewards that have made you forget what you are truly capable of achieving. Wake up to the reality of the war you are in and start fighting for the right to control your own mind. The modern world is a relentless machinery designed to harvest your consciousness through the precise manipulation of your neural chemistry. At the core of this industrialis distraction lies dopamine, a neurotransmitter that many mistakenly label as the molecule of pleasure. In reality, dopamine is the chemical of anticipation and the driver of the hunt, pushing you toward the next novelty. Every notification chime and every infinite scroll pulse is a calculated strike against your evolutionary hardware. Your brain was never designed to handle the sheer volume of high-speed data that defines the 21st century landscape. When you subject your prefrontal cortex to a constant barrage of artificial rewards, the biological cost is a profound loss of depth. We are living in an era of chronic overstimulation where the threshold for engagement is constantly rising to unsustainable levels. This digital saturation creates a state of cognitive fragmentation that makes sustained attention feel like a physical impossibility. You are not losing your mind, but you are losing the battle for your own biological resources. The cost of this hyperconnection is the quiet death of your ability to think deeply about anything at all. We have traded our cognitive sovereignty for a flickering stream of neon lights and hollow promises. To understand this overload is to recognize that your focus is the most valuable currency in existence. The system knows this, even if you have forgotten. It is time to see the invisible threads that pull at your resolve every single second. This is the hidden architecture of the attention economy, and it is built upon the exploitation of your primal drive for discovery. Every click is a vote against your future self. Every swipe is a subtle erosion of your will. This is the fundamental crisis of the modern mind, and it begins with the quiet chemical flood that you have learned to call normal life. Dopamine is not a villain in your biological story, but it has been weaponized by a world that demands your absolute presence while giving you nothing in return. This molecule is the engine of human ambition and the very reason our ancestors survived the harshest environments on the planet. It is what drives the scientist to discover and the artist to create. Yet in the hands of modern technology, it becomes a cage of our own making. When you are constantly flooded with easy hits of neurochemical reward, your brain responds by down-regulating its receptors. This is a survival mechanism intended to protect your delicate neural circuitry from burnout. The result is a numbing of the senses and a requirement for ever-increasing levels of intensity just to feel a baseline of engagement. You find yourself reaching for your phone not because you have something to find, but because the silence of your own mind has become unbearable. This overexposure transforms a vital tool of survival into a source of psychological paralysis. The enemy is not the chemical itself, but the lack of friction in our modern environment. We have removed the struggle from the reward, and in doing so, we have broken the cycle of meaningful achievement. The depth of your focus is directly proportional to the scarcity of your distractions. By allowing every trivial impulse to be satisfied instantly, you are training your brain to reject the slow and the significant. You are essentially teaching your internal systems that only the loud and the immediate deserve your energy. This creates a feedback loop of shallow living that prevents the emergence of genius. True focus requires a foundation of boredom and the courage to exist without a constant stream of external validation. You must understand that the very thing that makes you feel alive is currently being used to keep you in a state of perpetual hunger. The destruction of your focus is a gradual process of attrition that occurs every time you choose multitasking over singular presence. We have been lied to about the efficiency of doing everything at once. The human brain does not multitask. It simply switches between tasks at a high metabolic cost. Each switch leaves behind a residue of attention that clutters your cognitive workspace and lowers your overall intelligence. This constant toggling creates a state of hypervigilance that mimics the physiological response to trauma. Your nervous system is perpetually on high alert, waiting for the next hit of data to justify its existence. This prevents you from entering the flow state, where time disappears and true mastery is born. When your attention is shattered into 1,000 pieces, you become a ghost in your own life. You are physically present but mentally absent, drifting through a haze of unfinished thoughts and half-baked ideas. This is the dopamine overload in its most destructive form, a quiet theft of your potential that happens in the palm of your hand. The ability to sit in a room alone with a single thought is becoming a superpower in a world that cannot stop moving. We are losing the capacity for introspection because we are too busy responding to the demands of the digital void. Your focus capacity is like a muscle that has been allowed to atrophy under the weight of too much comfort. To reclaim it, you must acknowledge the profound damage that constant stimulation has inflicted on your inner world. The path back to clarity is not found in a new app or a better system of organization. It is found in the willingness to disconnect from the noise and reacquaint yourself with the silence. This is the only way to heal the fractured self and restore the power of the singular mind. You must decide if you are the master of your chemistry or its most loyal servant. Resetting your attention system is not an act of deprivation, but an act of profound self-liberation. It is the process of lowering the background noise of your life so that the signal can finally emerge. When you reduce the artificial stimulation that defines your daily routine, you allow your neural receptors to breathe again. This is a biological recalibration that requires a fundamental shift in how you perceive the value of your time. It is about moving away from the frantic search for more and toward the deliberate appreciation of less. You must become a gatekeeper of your own consciousness, ruthlessly defending the boundaries of your mental space. This shift begins with the awareness that every moment of stillness is an opportunity for your brain to repair itself. You do not need a complex strategy to fix what is broken. You simply need to stop breaking it. The human mind is incredibly resilient and possesses an innate ability to find order in the chaos if given the chance. By stepping back from the fire hose of information, you create the vacuum necessary for deep focus to return. This is the quiet revolution of the modern age, a refusal to participate in the race toward total distraction. You will find that as the dopamine fog clears, the world around you regains its vividness and its meaning. Tasks that once felt like a chore will begin to reveal their inherent beauty and complexity. You will rediscover the joy of the long-form thought and the steady rhythm of a focused heart. This is the restoration of your humanity in a world that would rather you be a data point. The power to focus is the power to live a life of your own choosing, free from the invisible chains of chemical manipulation. Your attention is the lens through which you experience the universe, and it is finally time to wipe away the dust. The silence is not something to be feared. It is the place where your true strength resides. You have spent years believing the lie that focus is a matter of character. You tell yourself that if you were just stronger or more disciplined, you could resist the siren call of the digital world. But willpower is a finite resource, a flickering candle in a hurricane of engineered distractions. Your environment is the true architect of your behavior, quietly sculpting your choices before you even realize a decision has been made. Every object in your field of vision is a silent suggestion, a visual trigger that pulls at the threads of your concentration. If your workspace is cluttered with reminders of unfinished tasks or entertainment, you are engaged in a war you cannot win. Your brain is a masterpiece of efficiency, and it will always seek the path of least resistance. When a smartphone sits within your line of sight, even if it is turned off, it exerts a cognitive tax on your working memory. You are forced to use precious mental energy just to ignore its presence. This is the invisible gravity of your surroundings, dragging your potential down into the mundane. You are not failing because you are weak. You are failing because you have built a temple to distraction and expected to find serenity within its walls. The hard truth is that your environment is currently designed to keep you small and reactive. It is a minefield of interruptions that you have mistakenly called a home or an office. To ignore the impact of your physical space is to remain a victim of circumstance. You are being shaped by the very air you breathe and the light that hits your eyes. Until you accept that your surroundings are an extension of your own mind, you will remain trapped in a cycle of frustration. Real change does not begin with a new resolution. It begins with a radical redesign of the world you inhabit. Consider the digital architecture that governs your existence as a secondary, more lethal environment. Most people live in a state of constant accessibility, allowing the entire world to barge into their minds at any given moment. Your phone is not just a tool. It is a portal through which billions of dollars of research are directed at your attention span. Every app is designed by experts who understand your biological vulnerabilities better than you do. They use color, sound, and variable rewards to ensure you never feel truly at peace without checking in. This digital access is a leash that grows shorter every day, yet you wear it willingly. You have allowed your social environment to dictate the rhythm of your thoughts through the constant pressure of instant communication. We live in a culture that treats a delayed response as a social transgression, forcing us into a defensive crouch of perpetual readiness. This social influence acts as a hidden force, compelling you to prioritize the trivial needs of others over the vital work of your own life. You are drowning in a sea of other people's priorities because you have not built the necessary seawalls. The expectation of constant connectivity is a poison that dissolves the capacity for deep work. When you are reachable by anyone, you are owned by everyone. Your focus is a private sanctuary that has been turned into a public square. If you do not control the access points to your mind, you are effectively living in a house without doors. Anyone can walk in, steal your time, and leave you with nothing but exhaustion. True strength is found in the ability to be unavailable. It is the courage to shut the world out so that you can finally hear yourself think. Without this boundary, your focus is nothing more than a suggestion. We must dismantle the myth of the lone hero resisting temptation through sheer mental grit. The most productive people on the planet are not those with the most willpower, but those who have the most boring environments. They understand that discipline is a high-energy state that eventually fails when the body is tired or the mind is stressed. Therefore, they design their lives so that the right choice is the only choice available. They remove the triggers for bad habits before those habits even have a chance to manifest. If you want to eat healthy, you do not keep junk food in the house and pray for strength. You simply ensure it is not there. The same principle applies to your cognitive health. If you want to focus, you must create a vacuum of stimulation where the only thing left to do is the work. This is environmental design as an act of mercy for your future self. You are building a fortress that protects your intentions from your impulses. Most of your daily actions are not conscious choices, but automated responses to environmental cues. By changing the cues, you change the person you are becoming. This realization is uncomfortable because it places the responsibility squarely on your shoulders. You can no longer blame your lack of focus on a wandering mind when you have surrounded that mind with shiny objects. You must become the engineer of your own reality rather than a passive observer of your own decline. Every choice you make about your surroundings is a vote for the type of person you wish to be. If you leave your environment to chance, you are leaving your destiny to chance as well. Control is not about restriction. It is about creating the conditions for your own excellence. You must be willing to strip away the comforts that serve as anchors. Only then can you begin to see the true potential of a mind that is allowed to settle into its own depth. Your social circle is the final, most pervasive layer of the environment that dictates your trajectory. Humans are social animals, hardwired to mirror the behaviors and the energy of those closest to them. If you are surrounded by people who value distraction and celebrate mediocrity, you will eventually adopt their standards. Their low expectations will become your ceiling, and their constant noise will drown out your internal signal. We are the average of the environments we frequent and the people we allow into our inner sanctum. This is the social gravity that either pulls you toward greatness or keeps you grounded in the mundane. You must audit your relationships with the same cold precision you apply to your workspace. Influence is subtle and silent, seeping into your subconscious until you find yourself speaking and thinking like the crowd. If your social environment does not demand focus and depth, it will actively work against your attempts to achieve them. You are being shaped by the conversations you hear and the values that are modeled for you every day. To stay weak is to remain in a setting that rewards your lowest impulses and ignores your highest aspirations. Growth requires the friction of high standards and the quiet of focused company. It is a lonely path to reorganize your life, but the alternative is a slow slide into commonness. You must have the integrity to walk away from environments that no longer serve the person you are trying to become. This is the ultimate test of your commitment to focus. It is not enough to want to change. You must provide a home for that change to live in. When your physical, digital, and social worlds are aligned with your purpose, focus becomes your natural state. You no longer have to force it, because your environment is doing the heavy lifting for you. You are the product of your surroundings, so choose wisely what you allow to define you. The world is waiting to consume your attention, but you have the power to close the gates. Control the environment, or it will surely control you. The concept of self-control has been fundamentally misunderstood as a static gift bestowed upon a lucky few at birth. You have been taught to believe that you either have the grit to succeed or you are destined to be a victim of your impulses. This is a dangerous fallacy that keeps you trapped in a cycle of learned helplessness. In reality, your ability to govern your own mind is a trainable biological system governed by the principles of neuroplasticity. Every time you choose to stay with a difficult task instead of seeking an easy escape, you are physically reconfiguring the neural pathways of your brain. This is not about who you are. It is about what you do consistently under pressure. Mental obedience is a skill that is forged in the fires of small, repetitive decisions made when no one is watching. It is the result of thousands of micro-victories over the urge to flinch. When you treat focus as a muscle, you realize that your current weakness is simply a reflection of your current level of training. You do not expect to lift a heavy weight without practice, yet you expect your mind to stay centered in a world designed to tear it apart. This chapter is about the transition from being a passive observer of your thoughts to becoming their absolute commander. It requires a shift in perspective where every moment of distraction is seen as a rep in the gym of your consciousness. You are not fighting against yourself. You are building a new version of yourself from the ground up. This is the architecture of the disciplined mind, constructed one choice at a time. The power to obey your own commands is the ultimate form of human freedom. It begins with the simple realization that your brain is a tool that can be mastered. You are the architect, and your attention is the raw material. Resistance training is the only way to harden the mind against the constant pull of the modern world. Just as a body grows stronger through the controlled application of physical stress, your focus deepens through the deliberate exposure to discomfort. You must learn to sit in the heat of a difficult problem without reaching for the cooling relief of a distraction. This is the practice of cognitive endurance, and it is the foundation of all significant achievement. When you feel the itch to check your phone or wander away from your work, that is the exact moment the training begins. That discomfort is the sound of your old habits dying and your new strength being born. Instead of running from the boredom or the frustration, you must learn to lean into it and find a steady rhythm within the chaos. We are living in an age of radical convenience that has made us cognitively soft and unable to endure even a few seconds of silence. By intentionally seeking out moments of mental resistance, you are insulating yourself against the fragmentation of the digital era. This is not a form of self-punishment. It is a form of self-reclamation. You are proving to your nervous system that you can survive without a constant stream of external stimulation. Every second you spend in focused resistance is a direct investment in your mental sovereignty. The more you practice staying present when it is hard, the easier it becomes when it is easy. This is the secret of the elite thinkers who seem to possess an unnatural level of calm. They have simply spent more time in the trenches of their own minds, learning the terrain of their own resistance. They have transformed the fire of discomfort into a fuel for their own progress. You can do the same if you are willing to embrace the struggle. Psychological reinforcement is the fuel that sustains the long journey from a distracted life to a controlled existence. To truly change your behavior, you must first change the underlying identity that drives your actions. If you tell yourself that you are someone who struggles to focus, you will subconsciously seek out ways to prove yourself right. You must begin to adopt the identity of a controlled thinker, someone who values the sanctity of their own attention. Every time you successfully navigate a moment of temptation, you must label it as a confirmation of this new identity. You are not someone who is trying to focus. You are someone who is focus personified. This shift in self-perception creates a powerful psychological feedback loop that makes discipline feel less like a chore and more like an expression of your true nature. You are building a mental highlight reel of times you chose depth over shallowness. These wins accumulate over time, creating a reservoir of confidence that you can draw upon when the distractions are at their loudest. The mind loves consistency, and it will eventually align its desires with the image you hold of yourself. This is the process of neural reinforcement where the more you act like a master of your mind, the more your brain adapts to support that mastery. You are rewriting the script of your life in real time, moving from a character of chaos to a character of order. This transformation is not an overnight event, but a gradual process of becoming. You must be patient with the slow work of changing your internal narrative. The rewards of this shift are profound and far-reaching, touching every aspect of your professional and personal life. When you believe you are in control, the world begins to reflect that belief back to you in the form of results. You are becoming the master of your own destiny. The final stage of this mental evolution is the realization that your mind is the most powerful technology you will ever own. It is a system that can be optimized, upgraded, and refined through the persistent application of will. Training your mind to obey you is not an act of aggression, but an act of profound self-love. You are giving yourself the gift of presence and the ability to experience life with total clarity. A trained mind does not wander into the past or fret about the future. It stays anchored in the potency of the present moment. This is where your power resides, and this is where your future is being built. As you continue to practice the principles of focus, you will find that the world begins to slow down. You will see opportunities that were previously hidden by the fog of distraction. You will develop a level of insight and intuition that is only available to those who have conquered their own restlessness. This is the ultimate competitive advantage in a world that is becoming increasingly shallow. While everyone else is being pulled in 1,000 directions, you will be moving with the steady force of a singular purpose. The mind that obeys its owner is a mind that can change the world. It is the source of all great art, all scientific discovery, and all meaningful human connection. You have the tools and the biological hardware to reach this level of excellence. The only thing standing between you and a life of deep focus is your willingness to put in the work. The training never truly ends, but the effort required becomes a source of joy rather than a burden. You are now equipped with the understanding that your focus is your responsibility and your greatest asset. It is time to step into the role of the commander and direct your energy toward the things that truly matter. Your mind is ready to follow your lead, so give it a command worth obeying. The myth of motivation is perhaps the most seductive trap ever devised for the human mind. You have been conditioned to believe that you must feel inspired before you can begin your work. You wait for a lightning strike of energy to propel you forward into productivity. But motivation is a fickle ghost that vanishes the moment things become difficult or tedious. It is a biological luxury that depends on your sleep and your diet and your mood. Relying on motivation to achieve your goals is like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation of shifting sand. If you only work when you feel like it, you are essentially a slave to your fluctuating hormones. The elite performers of this world do not wait for a feeling to strike them. They understand that waiting for motivation is a form of sophisticated procrastination. It is an excuse used by the amateur to justify their lack of progress. Real focus is not a byproduct of inspiration. It is a byproduct of commitment. You must learn to operate in the absence of any positive emotional feedback. The truth is that your brain will almost always prefer the comfort of the known over the strain of the new. It will offer you 1,000 reasons to delay the start until conditions are perfect. But conditions are never perfect, and the feeling you are chasing may never arrive. You must stop treating your work as an emotional choice and start treating it as a functional necessity. This is the first step toward true cognitive sovereignty. You are not a child who needs to be coaxed into action by a treat. You are an adult who must execute regardless of the internal weather. The bridge between your current state and your desired future is not built with feelings, but with raw action. It is time to kill the expectation that you should ever feel like doing the hard thing. The most difficult part of any meaningful task is the moment of initiation. This is the phenomenon of psychological inertia, where the friction of starting feels physically painful. Your brain perceives the upcoming effort as a threat to its energy reserves and sends out signals of boredom or fatigue to stop you. This starting friction is a wall that most people never have the courage to climb. They mistake this initial resistance for a sign that they are not ready or that the task is wrong for them. In reality, this resistance is simply a biological gatekeeper designed to conserve your resources. Once you move past the first 10 minutes of execution, the friction begins to dissolve and momentum takes its place. This is the physics of the mind where an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an external force. That force is your will, and it must be applied with absolute coldness toward your own excuses. You do not need to feel good to start, you just need to start. The act of doing creates the clarity that you are currently searching for in your thoughts. Action is the only antidote to the paralysis of overthinking. When you force your body into motion, your mind has no choice but to follow. You are teaching your nervous system that your commands are non-negotiable. This is how you break the back of procrastination and reclaim your time. The pain of starting is always temporary, but the cost of waiting is permanent. You must become comfortable with the initial discomfort of the blank page or the complex problem. Do not negotiate with the resistance, and do not listen to its lies. Just move the pen or type the words or open the file. The momentum you seek is hidden on the other side of the work you are avoiding. The only way out is through the gate of friction. Identity is the ultimate driver of human behavior, and yours is currently tied to your emotions. You likely see yourself as someone who is trying to be focused or someone who wants to be productive. This identity is weak because it is conditional and depends on your current state of mind. To achieve a level of focus that is independent of motivation, you must forge a new identity as a disciplined executor. This person does not care about the lack of inspiration or the presence of fatigue. This person is a machine of high-level output who values the process over the feeling. When you adopt this identity, your decisions become automatic because they are a reflection of who you are. You do not ask yourself if you feel like working, because that question is no longer relevant to your existence. You work because that is what you do. This shift in perspective removes the emotional friction from your daily life. It creates a sense of psychological safety because your success is no longer tied to the whims of your neurochemistry. You become the master of your own output regardless of the external or internal circumstances. This is the hallmark of the professional who produces greatness on a schedule. They have built a wall between their feelings and their actions that cannot be breached. You must stop identifying with the person who needs a reason to move and start being the person who is the reason. This is not a cold way to live, but a liberated one. It frees you from the tyranny of your own moods and allows you to build something that lasts. Your emotions are valid, but they are not the captains of your ship. You are the captain, and your destination is set. The disciplined mind is the only mind that is truly free to create its own reality. You are no longer waiting for permission to be great. The final truth of focus without motivation is that the reward comes after the work, not before it. We have this sequence backward in our modern culture of instant gratification. We want to feel the pride and the satisfaction before we have earned it through the struggle. But the dopamine you are looking for is found in the completion of the task, not in the anticipation of it. When you execute despite your resistance, you experience a unique form of self-respect that cannot be bought or faked. This is the true source of lasting confidence. It is the knowledge that you can trust yourself to do what you said you would do, especially when it was hard. This internal integrity is the foundation of a focused life. It allows you to face any challenge with a sense of calm because you know your own strength. As you continue to practice disciplined execution, the need for motivation will slowly wither away. It will be replaced by a steady, quiet power that moves you forward with the inevitability of a glacier. You will look back at your old self and wonder why you ever let a simple feeling hold you back. The world belongs to those who show up when they don't want to. It belongs to the individuals who have mastered the art of the grind and turned it into a masterpiece of focus. Your brain is a tool that requires a firm hand to guide it through the noise. You have the capacity to be that guide and to command your attention with absolute authority. Do not let the lack of a feeling steal your future from you. The work is waiting and the clock is ticking. Your feelings are irrelevant to the mission. The only thing that matters is the execution. Step into the arena and do what is required. The focus you crave is born in the heat of the action. You are the architect of your own discipline. Build something that the world cannot ignore. The voice inside your head that whispers reasons for delay is not your friend, but a sophisticated survival mechanism gone rogue. Excuses are the camouflage of the ego, designed to protect you from the perceived threat of failure and the inevitable strain of growth. When you tell yourself that you are too tired or that the timing is not quite right, you are engaging in a calculated act of self-deception. Your brain is a master of rationalization, capable of weaving intricate narratives to justify your retreat into the safety of the known. It seeks to conserve energy by avoiding any task that requires significant cognitive load or emotional risk. This is the comfort bias in action, a primitive drive that prioritizes immediate relief over long-term mastery. You have become an expert at negotiating with your own potential, bartering away your greatness for a few moments of hollow ease. Every justification you accept is a micro-betrayal of the person you are capable of becoming. You must recognize that an excuse is simply a lie that you have chosen to believe because it is less painful than the truth of your own inaction. The mind will present these falsehoods as logical conclusions based on external circumstances beyond your control. It will blame the environment, the tools, or the people around you to keep your sense of self intact. But this protection is a prison that prevents you from ever testing the true limits of your resolve. To gain absolute focus, you must first develop a radical intolerance for your own stories. You have to stop listening to the internal lawyer who is constantly building a case for your mediocrity. There is no such thing as a valid excuse when the objective is your own evolution. The only thing standing between you and your goals is the narrative you keep telling yourself about why you cannot achieve them. It is time to see the deception for what it is and choose the path of raw truth. Every time you allow a justification to halt your progress, you are actively reinforcing an identity of weakness and inconsistency. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine that takes its cues from your repeated behaviors. When you fold under the pressure of a minor inconvenience, you are sending a clear signal to your nervous system that your intentions are optional. This creates a psychological blueprint of a person who cannot be trusted to follow through when the heat is turned up. You are literally training your mind to look for the exit the moment things become uncomfortable. This reinforcement makes the next excuse even easier to accept, creating a downward spiral of declining standards and fractured will. The more you negotiate with your impulses, the more power you grant them over your life. You become a person who is perpetually waiting for the stars to align, unaware that the alignment is something you must create through sheer force of action. This identity of weakness is not a permanent trait, but a cumulative result of the small concessions you make every single day. To break this cycle, you must understand that your character is forged in the moments when you want to quit but choose to stay. High performance is built on the ruins of the excuses you used to make. You must begin to see yourself as someone who is immune to the lure of the easy way out. This requires a ruthless audit of your internal dialogue and a refusal to entertain any thought that undermines your mission. You are either a victim of your circumstances or the master of your focus, but you cannot be both. The stories you tell yourself are the bricks that build your future. So stop using the debris of your failures to construct your house. You have to decide that your word to yourself is the highest law in your universe. Without this foundation of integrity, your focus will always be a secondary casualty to your own comfort. The architecture of high performance is built upon the total elimination of internal negotiation. Most people waste a staggering amount of mental energy debating whether or not they should do the work they have already committed to doing. They weigh their options, check their moods, and consult their fatigue as if these things were relevant to the task at hand. This constant inner dialogue is a parasitic drain on your focus and a primary source of cognitive fatigue. The elite do not participate in this mental bargaining because they have already made the decision in advance. They have moved beyond the need for a debate and have entered the realm of absolute execution. When you remove the option to quit or delay, you free up massive amounts of cognitive resources for the actual work. You must learn to treat your plans as non-negotiable contracts that are signed in blood. There is no room for a second opinion once the objective has been set and the timer has started. This level of mental rigidity is what allows for the emergence of deep focus in an age of infinite distractions. You are creating a closed system where the only output possible is the completion of the mission. This requires you to become deaf to the whining of your own biology and the complaints of your ego. The internal negotiator is a shadow that disappears the moment you shine the light of firm resolve upon it. You must develop a cold, clinical relationship with your own resistance, acknowledging its presence without granting it any authority. This is the difference between an amateur who is driven by impulse and a professional who is driven by purpose. The ability to execute without hesitation is a superpower that will set you apart from the distracted masses. You are not a spectator in your own life. You are the commander of your own consciousness. Silence the debate and move with the singular intent of a predator. Your potential is waiting on the other side of your silence. True liberation is found in the realization that you no longer need to be in the mood to be productive. You are finally breaking free from the tyranny of your own emotional state and stepping into a reality governed by discipline. This chapter is a call to arms against the soft parts of your psyche that have held you back for far too long. To eliminate every excuse is to reclaim your power as a conscious agent of change. You are no longer at the mercy of the weather, your social media feed, or your fleeting feelings. You are a sovereign entity capable of directing your attention with precision and force. This is the ultimate form of self-respect, a declaration that your goals are more important than your comfort. As you shed the layers of self-deception, you will find a reservoir of strength you never knew existed. You will discover that the obstacles you thought were mountains were merely shadows cast by your own hesitation. The world becomes a simpler place when you stop looking for reasons to fail and start looking for ways to succeed. This path is harsh and it is demanding, but it leads to a level of clarity and achievement that most will never know. You are now equipped with the awareness to catch an excuse before it takes root in your mind. You have the tools to dismantle the justifications that once felt like facts. This is the end of the amateur era and the beginning of your life as a disciplined thinker. There are no more hidden exits and no more safety nets. There is only the work, the focus, and the inevitable result of your unwavering commitment. You have burned the bridges back to your old self, and the only way forward is through the fire of execution. The noise has stopped and the excuses are gone. There is nothing left to do but begin. This is the moment where your true life starts, in the absence of lies and the presence of total action. You are the master of your mind, and the mind is now ready to serve its master without question. The final evolution of your focus is the transition from effort to identity, where discipline becomes the bedrock of your very existence. Most people view discipline as an external force or a painful burden that must be dragged through the day. They see it as a constant struggle against their own nature, but this is a fundamental misunderstanding of the focused mind. Unbreakable mental discipline is not a series of exhausting battles. It is the quiet result of a structural transformation. When you repeatedly choose to control your impulses, you are not just completing a task, you are building a cathedral of neural efficiency. Each moment of resisted distraction acts as a brick in a foundation that eventually becomes self-sustaining. You are moving beyond the need for willpower and into a state of being where focus is your default setting. This is the stage where the internal friction of doing the work vanishes because there is no longer a version of you that refuses to do it. You have integrated the habit of concentration into the core of your personality. This identity shift is the most powerful psychological weapon you possess. It means that you no longer have to decide to be disciplined, you simply are disciplined. The world will look at your output and call it talent or luck, but you will know it is the result of a long-term architecture. You have systematically removed the possibility of failure by making discipline the only language your brain speaks fluently. This is the ultimate goal of your training. You are no longer a person trying to stay focused in a chaotic world. You are a person whose internal structure is so solid that the chaos of the world cannot even find a crack to enter. This is the birth of a new cognitive reality where your potential is limited only by the scale of your own ambition. The truth about the elite is that they were not born with a special gene for grit or an innate capacity for silence. They were built in the dark through the relentless repetition of boring and difficult tasks. Every disciplined mind you admire is the product of thousands of small resistances that the world never saw. They have spent years exposing themselves to the discomfort of deep work until their nervous systems adapted to the strain. This is the law of biological reinforcement, where the brain optimizes for whatever behavior is repeated most often. If you repeat distraction, you become a master of fragmentation, but if you repeat focus, you become a master of depth. There is no middle ground in the training of your consciousness. You must understand that every single second you spend in a state of flow is reinforcing a habit that will serve you for decades. This long-term reinforcement is what separates the temporary high achiever from the person of enduring legacy. You are playing a game of compound interest where the dividends are paid out in clarity and power. The more you exercise your mental structure, the more rigid it becomes against the erosion of external influence. You are essentially creating a shield for your mind that grows stronger every time it is struck by a temptation. This resistance is not your enemy. It is the very material you use to forge your resolve. Without the pressure of the world, you could never develop the diamond-like hardness of a truly disciplined mind. You must welcome the challenges and the interruptions as opportunities to prove your structural integrity. You are a builder, and your attention is the blueprint. By sticking to the plan day after day, you are constructing a life that is immune to the trivialities of the masses. This is the path of the professional. A profound psychological transformation occurs when you realize that your mind has finally started to obey you without question. You begin to experience a sense of internal peace that is inaccessible to those who are constantly at war with their own impulses. This is the state of cognitive flow where your actions and your intentions are perfectly aligned in a single direction. You no longer feel the need to bargain with yourself for 10 more minutes of sleep or one more scroll through a feed. Those voices have been silenced by the overwhelming presence of your new identity. You have become a person who values the long-term vision over the short-term hit of dopamine. This maturity of the mind is the mark of true adulthood in an era that tries to keep you in a state of perpetual childhood. You are taking responsibility for the direction of your energy and the quality of your thoughts. This shift creates a ripple effect throughout your entire life, affecting your health, your relationships, and your career. People will notice the change in your presence long before they see the results of your work. They will sense a weight and a depth to your character that was not there before. This is the gravity of a disciplined soul. You are moving through the world with a level of intentionality that is rare and magnetic. You are no longer reacting to the environment, but shaping it to fit your will. The transformation is complete when you realize that the work is no longer something you have to do, but something you are. This is the peak of human performance where the mind and the mission become one. You have reached the summit of your own potential, and the view from the top is one of absolute clarity. Your life is now a testament to the power of the singular focus. As you conclude this journey of cognitive reclamation, you must carry the fire of discipline with you into every new day. The structure you have built requires maintenance through the same repetition that created it. However, the burden is now light because the foundation is strong. You have seen through the illusions of motivation and the deception of excuses. You have mastered your environment and recalibrated your chemical rewards. You are now equipped with an unbreakable mental discipline that will act as your compass in any storm. This is not just a chapter in a book, but the beginning of a new way of existing in the universe. Your attention is the lens through which you create your reality, and that lens is now perfectly focused. You have the power to see things as they truly are and the strength to act on that truth without hesitation. The world is full of noise, but you are the silence at the center of it. You are the conductor of your own symphony and the captain of your own ship. The future belongs to those who can control their own minds in an age of total distraction. You have proven that you are one of those people. The path ahead is clear, and the work is waiting for your unique touch. Do not let the flame of this new identity flicker out in the face of old habits. Protect your focus with the same ferocity that a wolf protects its young. It is your most precious resource and the key to everything you desire. You have forced your brain to stay focused, and in doing so you have unlocked the doors to a life of meaning and mastery. The journey does not end here, it simply changes form. You are ready to execute at a level that most people cannot even imagine. Your mind is yours. Your time is yours. Your destiny is now firmly in your hands. Go forth and build the future you have finally earned the right to inhabit. This is your legacy. The transformation you have undergone is not merely a change in habit, but a total reconstruction of the self at a cellular level. You have moved beyond the fragile state of trying to focus and have entered the immutable state of being focused. This is the final stage of the arc where the identity shift is locked into place like a master key turning in a rusted lock. In the beginning, you were a person struggling against the current of 1,000 digital demands, but now you are the current itself. Distraction no longer feels like a temptation because it no longer aligns with the person you have become. When your identity is firmly rooted in discipline, the noise of the world loses its frequency and its power to disrupt your internal signal. You have developed a psychological immunity to the trivialities that once consumed your hours and drained your spirit. This is the ultimate freedom that comes from absolute clarity of purpose. You no longer need to check your resolve because your resolve has become your default setting. The reactive mind, which once jumped at every notification, has been silenced by the arrival of the controlled mind. This new version of you operates with a quiet intensity that does not require external validation or constant stimulation to sustain itself. You have reclaimed the cognitive territory that was stolen from you by a world designed to keep you small and scattered. The shift is permanent because it is based on the truth of your own experience and the evidence of your own victories. You are no longer a victim of your biology, but the architect of your own evolution. The journey from fragmentation to integration is complete, and you stand at the threshold of a new existence. This is the moment where the training ends and the real work of your life begins with a mind that is finally and fully your own. As the fog of distraction lifts, you begin to realize that the world has not changed, but your relationship to it has been fundamentally altered. You see the machinery of the attention economy for what it is, and you find its lures to be hollow and transparent. The social pressure to be constantly available and the biological drive for novelty no longer hold a knife to your throat. You have cultivated a sanctuary within yourself that remains untouched by the chaos of the modern landscape. This psychological transformation is the hallmark of the elite thinker who understands that focus is the primary source of all human power. When you are no longer reactive, you become a force of nature that can move through any obstacle with surgical precision. Your attention is a laser that cuts through the noise to find the essence of every problem and the beauty in every moment. This level of self-mastery is rare because it requires the courage to be different and the strength to stay silent when everyone else is shouting. You have earned this silence through the fire of resistance and the discipline of your daily choices. The realization that you cannot be distracted is not a boast, but a calm statement of fact. It is the result of thousands of micro-decisions that have finally accumulated into a solid wall of mental integrity. You are now capable of deep work that others find impossible because your mind has been hardened by the very effort of its own reclamation. The distractions are still there, but they have lost their voice and their gravity in the presence of your singular intent. You are moving with a level of grace and efficiency that is only available to those who have mastered their own internal weather. This is the birth of your true potential, and it is a sight to behold in a world of ghosts. The final realization of mental sovereignty is a profound and heavy experience that changes how you view every remaining second of your life. You now understand that your focus is the lens through which you create your reality and that you are the sole owner of that lens. This is the ultimate form of self-ownership where no app and no algorithm and no social expectation can dictate the quality of your thoughts. You have stepped out of the stream of collective madness and onto the solid ground of your own making. This self-mastery is not a destination, but a continuous state of being that you carry into every room you enter. You bring a weight and a presence that demands respect without saying a word. People will sense the shift in your energy and the clarity in your eyes because you are no longer leaking power to the trivial. Your energy is contained and directed with absolute authority toward the things that truly matter to your soul. This is the definition of a life well lived where every action is a deliberate choice rather than a programmed response. You have broken the chains of chemical slavery and found the liberty that exists on the other side of discipline. The world will try to pull you back into the fray, but you are now equipped with the armor of an unbreakable identity. You know who you are, and you know what your time is worth. This knowledge is your shield and your sword as you navigate the complexities of the future. You are a person who cannot be distracted because you have found something more interesting than the noise, and that something is the depth of your own mind. The potential that was once buried under layers of digital sediment has been unearthed, and it is ready to be put to work in the service of your highest ideals. You are free. The cinematic conclusion of this journey is the sight of a person who is finally and completely in command of their own ship. You are the captain and the navigator and the wind itself as you sail toward the horizons of your own choosing. The transformation arc is complete, and you are standing at the peak of your own mental sovereignty. This is the realization that you are the master of your fate and the captain of your soul, as the poets once declared. The quiet power of a focused mind is the greatest asset you will ever possess, and it is now yours to keep. You have forced your brain to stay focused, and in doing so you have unlocked the doors to a life of unimaginable depth and meaning. The noise of the world is now just a distant hum that cannot reach the inner sanctum of your resolve. You have moved from the chaos of the many to the power of the one. This is the self-mastery that defines the greats, and it is the heritage you have claimed for yourself through blood and sweat and silence. The future is no longer a source of anxiety, but a canvas for your focused intent. You are ready to create and to build and to lead with a clarity that the world desperately needs. Your journey through the landscape of distraction has come to an end, but your real story is just beginning. Every moment from this point forward is a testament to the strength of your will and the purity of your attention. You are no longer a person who is easily swayed or easily broken by the whims of the environment. You are a person who cannot be distracted because you have found the center of your own being. The world is waiting for what you will do next with this newfound power. Step into the arena with your head held high and your mind locked on the target. You have become the master of your own attention and therefore the master of your own life. The silence is yours and the victory is absolute. This is the end of the chapter, but the beginning of your era.